watched a few Alex Hormozy videos last week, and one of the uh, one of the things that he talked about was like, if you ever go to your boss to ask them for a raise, do not ask them for more money. Like that's that's not the start of the conversation. The start of the conversation is how can I bring you more value? And
It's well, so it's interesting, right? So I actually have two things. I've been, and I think it's the danger, some dangers. Not say dangers. All right,
trade off.
so some trade offs, right? So I have my cousin. He owns a garage. He's the guy you're talking about, right? Five, six employees. Da da da. We discussed in length about how do you attract quality mechanics, right? The people that are like that this is their nerd, this is what they do, but they've always been undervalued because they get paid 25 bucks an hour, $20 an hour, like the guy who left them. Who can give a shit, right? Like how do you attract and find? Suggested is double it, right? Make it $50 an hour. Because nobody's paying $50 an hour. Like nobody would be doing it, but and depending on what the job is, right? That would be, or actually, it might be a really good investment to get that level of skill, right, in play, because everybody there is thinking about, or the way he does the math is, you got to do this number of billable hours just for your own paycheck, right? There's a minimum number,
Mhm.
and then it's his job to supply the work, make sure there's enough work to be done, right? And then your job is to do it within the standards so you get paid for it. Because if you do the work over the standards, that's negative hours now, right? So the standard is 3 hours for a thing. You do it in 5. It was one.
You just cost yourself 2 hours of pay.
Right. So really, that was a 1 hour job instead of a 3 hour job. At the end of the day, and you wasted 5 hours, or yeah, and so like in that whole sense of like, what's the ROI for the job, right? Does the job pay high enough to pay somebody that $50 an hour, right? Because it's a higher level job. So that same guy doing it for 3 hours is actually working like 2 people, essentially. So that's math for him to figure out, but he can't figure it out because he always has work in that type of job. Most office spaces, we'll call it cerebral work, right? People are sitting around like doing nothing for a majority of the day, and it's already been like kind of like scienced out that the human mental capacity is about 3 hours, right? We get about 3 hours of solid focus concentration, right, where you're not distracted, like in the zone. 3 hours per day. You might get 6 if you're disciplined and you work alone, type of thing.
And minimize distractions and
minimize
minimize
distraction.
auditory input and
Yeah,
keep
but
people from coming up to you in the middle of a task.
exactly. But 90% of the people get a good solid 3 hours. And so this whole thing about, well, we just noticed that we work a 4-day work day and we get the same amount of work done. That's weird. It's like, not really. You could probably go to 4-hour work days and 5-hour days and still have the same output.
Wait, you said 4 hour work days?
No,
You mean like
no, I'm sorry, 4-day work days, right? So you only work 4 out of 5.
4-day work week?
4-day work week, sorry, and you only work for 4 hours per day. Would have the same output as of today as a 40-hour work week in the majority of office work, right? In the majority of, especially big office work, right? Especially big office work. Small boutique, let's say like law firms, right? For instance, is a great example of cerebral work that's small, right? I think it's more like my buddy, my cousin. There's all this work coming in, no matter what, right? And you got triage. It's triage. It's more like triage, right? So you end up working 80 hours a week, getting paid for 40. You know what I mean? Because it's triage, because there's deadlines and you're trying to get ahead of it. And there's a lot of research, and this research sucks up a lot of time,
Yeah.
and things like that. So I think like under those, like depending, right? If the job has workloads coming in by the truckloads, whether it's actual trucks or it's office work, where somebody has like their pile stacking up of things that they need to process, do, analyze, whatever, I don't think we'll have that 10% problem. I think a lot of the 10% problem, like where we got to cut the last 10%, isn't because they're not performing, because there's lots of stuff coming in. They're not performing because there's not a lot of stuff, like there's not enough coming in, and so now you got to on your own time get innovative. How do I show my value? Because I don't have anything
Mhm.
coming in, so I got to show my value if I want to stay on board, stay on the team. Um,
Yeah. And
that's
that's
that's one version of that anyway.
so that was I watched a few Alex Hormozy videos last week, and one of the uh, one of the things that he talked about was like, if you ever go to your boss to ask them for a raise, do not ask them for more money. Like that's not the start of the conversation. The start of the conversation is, how can I bring you more value?
Mm,
Like what can I be doing to make your life easier, to generate more revenue for the company? Like what is in your mind that needs to be done or could be done that I can take responsibility for? And then the compensation follows,
mm,
right? Because who wants to work with that guy?
mm-hmm,
Every every supervisor, every manager, every leader who like wants to look good for how well his team is performing.
mm-hmm,
Yes. Every small business owner who wants to have more free time or less stress or just wants the business to do better. Yes. So as an employee, and this, you can do this in the military as well. They're like, that's the reason why we have the awards program, is because we
mm-hmm,
can't
mm-hmm.
do more unless
Right.
you do your part and promote.